part 47 of Don't Say Schwarzenegger. For this part, I'm going to be covering the fourth parole violation of one or more of the defendants that the court system completely ignored, or gave a lenient sentence when the other ones were reported, but this one has video evidence, so let's talk about it. So real quickly, I'm just going to recap the 3 previous probation violations which we caught while all the defendants were convicted of, GBI felonies. And so they were on strict probation rules that, they were supposed to be on strict probation rules that the normal person would be on. For example, we wouldn't even need like a BIC, like alcohol test, whatever you call it, done on them to have a probation violation and an immediate automatic 7-year prison sentence. All you need, and this is according to the DA and the law books and everything, all you need is a photo of them holding a glass of wine or standing in a bar, and that's enough to throw them in prison. That's not what happened, obviously. So real quick, let's recap. So the first probation violation was within like a couple of months or something after they started doing their weekends at the private Seal Beach private jail. And all the defendants in the criminal case showed up and were caught intoxicated on felony probation, intoxicated at jail. And then the police said that one of them, or a few of them, were trying to actually fight the security or officers, whatever you call it, that run it. So the Driz twins were kicked out of the jail, but Sean Driz was allowed to finish his 45 days or whatever it was on his own time or whatever. So that was the first one. No prison sentence or anything. Sorry, I just worked out this morning for the first time in 100 years and I keep seeing hairs pop out. Anyways, so Sean Driz was allowed to just finish, like nothing happened. And they even took a blood alcohol test and they all had alcohol in their systems, like literally caught red-handed, nothing happened. That one I covered in part 14 if you feel like going back or you're new here. The second probation violation was when the surprise probation search happened at all 3 Driz's home in Beverly Hills. And they found a stolen loaded chambered pew-pew. They found the illegal white powder, snow. And they also found a duffel bag, a huge duffel bag filled with green plants, which was illegal for them to have. Caught red-handed, 6 Beverly Hills Police Department officers attest to it. And the judge said, Catherine Mader said, not a big deal. Not a big deal. Let it slide. And that was covered in parts 15 through 23, if you want to look. The third probation violation, which I covered in part 22, was when Sean Driz spoke to us at one of the secret hearings at the airport court where he had Blair Burke, Harvey Weinstein's attorney, accompanying him. And he walked out in front of her, and all of these people are friends, me and my brother. And as he walked by, he laughed at my brother and I, and he said, have a nice day. And we told the DA, and the DA told the judge to, hey, that's not allowed to happen. They have restraining orders. He literally violated parole again. Nothing happened. The judge just said, hey, don't do that, bad. So that was that. Now let's get to the fourth probation violation. So a little reminder that me and the other plaintiffs, we were forced to undergo not 1, but 2 depositions each and 2 psychiatric evaluations each. Those are full 8-hour days. Sometimes they extend into multiple days each. And the defendants only had to do 1 deposition each. And the reason this is because the Drizzes forced us all to be deposed and forced us all to have the psychiatric evals. And then once the statute of limitations ran out to convict William Jolson of a crime, like criminally, then he was allowed to be brought into the defense. And so he said, okay, well now I want to make the plaintiffs do this all over again. The victims, forcing us to redo everything again, and legally that was allowed, and it was horrific. It was really awful. There's other details I feel like I could go into about how the games that he and his defense team played, because it's all meant to tire us out, make us run out of money, to frazzle us, to upset us, and it works. It works. It's a disgusting defense to go to, but it worked, and he pulled that card. So let's talk about really quickly the psychiatric evaluation. So what it is you sit down with a doctor who they try to say, oh, it's not that the defense doesn't pick the doctor you have to answer these questions to in a private room. It's somebody just, they're not biased or whatever. Like, it's not their pick. Here's the thing. The doctor they chose to force us to do this psychiatric evaluation was a man named Dr. Reading. So this is Dr. Anthony E. reading. Again, supposedly an unbiased, like doctor right down the middle. It's not like the defense picks him. But here's the thing. When I had to do my eval with him, 8 hours, and you have to answer questions for the defense, remember. You have to answer the victims in a violent crime. I had to answer questions like, where do you live? What do you drive? What's your schedule like during the day? What types of things make you feel safe? What types of things make you feel unsafe? Can you imagine answering questions like this and then handing it to the defense? And can you imagine too that within weeks of my 8-hour evaluation with this man, that suddenly all of the things that I said make me feel safe started being broken down and taken away one by one, and I can get into detail in probably the next part about that. It was horrifying. Also, one of the questions I had to answer was, and I quote, "Are demons trying to read your thoughts?" No. Okay, so parole violation number 4 by Sean Driz. And by the way, every single parole violation that I've mentioned since the day they were convicted, he's been involved in every single one. How much prison time did he get for each one with evidence? 0. I wonder why. So here's the 4th one. So when they're convicted of GBI felonies, an extremely violent crime, great bodily injury is what that means, there's automatic restraining orders that go into effect for years. Probation, the whole thing. What that means is none of the defendants can talk to us, contact us. That means speak to in the hallway, text, DM, like our social media pictures. They can't have other people reach out to us through them. So that's what that means. Let me see. Okay. So during one of the depositions that I was forced to go under, Sean Driz, by the way, none of the defendants ever showed up for depositions. It's just like us and a slew of attorneys at the table, and your video recorded, there's a stenographer, and that's how it happens. So I'm going to show you the video in a second, like a quick clip of him violating his probation. And I was sitting there, it was at the tail end, like hours and hours and hours, tail end of the deposition. I'm just like, my eyes are puffy. I'm wiping the tears away that I had just sobbed previously. And the whole time while I'm doing this, Sean and his attorney, Maria Hall, who works with Robert Shapiro, they're sitting across the table and he's just staring me down for the entire thing. And at the very end, all the questions end. Everyone legally is not allowed to ask me any more questions because the deposition ends. I'm taking my microphone off, getting ready to go. And Sean goes, like, he asks if he can ask me a question, and they're like, no, you can't. So he just tramples over that. And he says, "I just want to know if you're in fear of me, plain and simple." After this happened, this is now the 2nd time he has spoken to me and just trampled over the restraining order with nobody doing anything. Like, my safety is just, it's not a matter. My worth and value as a human being is just, it's being stomped into my skull again that their rights trump mine. I'm not a human being. And that's all I could think of at this time. And when the camera went off, I went into the hallway and I just started speed walking down the hallway, and I kind of remember some of it. I just collapsed to the ground, hyperventilated, and I was like on the ground sobbing and trying to breathe, and it was awful. So here's the video of Sean Driz violating his probation once again on camera, and it's in the transcript.
I don't have any further questions.
All right. So do you want to put the stipulation on the
That's my
record?
attorney talking.
So here's the deal. Everyone else has had the opportunity to depose on the screen. The only person who hadn't had the opportunity was Mr. Jolson, because he was not in the case with the last
I just have one question to clarify one thing. I don't want to answer it if it's not. I just want to know if you're in fear of me. Plain and simple.
So there you see it. There's Sean Driz on camera. That's his voice. In the transcript, it says, "Present, Sean Driz and his attorney, Maria Hall." His words that I said to you and you just heard were also written in the transcript. At the civil trial, which I'll cover soon, very soon, Sean said, literally times, denied ever even being there. Like, said I made the whole thing up that he said that to me. It was so embarrassing, like secondhand embarrassment. So yeah, we are getting to, I think we're getting to the last 12, 15 parts of my series, and I'm going to try to knock them out because it's more recent for me, so I feel like it's going to be easier for me to just get it out. Thank you guys so much for being patient, and I will see you soon. Part 48 of Don't Say Schwarzenegger. In this part, I'm going to be covering the 5th probation violation of one or more of the defendants in our case and providing photo and video evidence. Also, just a little heads up on this one. It's going to be 1 or 2 parts, I'm not sure yet, but it's not for kids. After the evidence of the probation violation came into my possession and the defendants were aware that it was in my possession, I was immediately paid a visit to my home in the middle of the night that night, and something happened, and then a few days later, something even worse happened, and there began the blackmail of a Schmex tape. No, I've never made one consensually. So, okay, let's go. Okay, so it's November 21st, 2019. It's Thursday night around 10 p.m. And this guy that I had just kind of started dating, we dated for like a few months, and he reached out and said, there's this beautiful new hotel in West Hollywood and it's got a beautiful rooftop. Do you want to try to see if you can handle going there? And if you're not comfortable, we can leave at any point. And I was like, okay, I'll try. So I got a little dressed up and we went. And when we walked in, it's a beautiful, beautiful hotel. When you walk in, it's just like really high ceilings and there's some couches and a pool table. And then to the right is the bar and like the lobby bar. And there was nobody in the whole place except for like 25 people, like kind of smushed in like sardines right at the bar. So we go over there and I'm like feeling comfortable. I'm like, okay, I can do this. And we kind of squeeze through this little crowd of people, and I'm got my back literally touching the bar, kind of scanning people and stuff. And the guy I'm with is ordering our cocktails. And at that moment, we haven't even been there 3 minutes, I look past the crowd of people and I can see one of the Drizzt twins about 25 feet away from me. He had clearly just gotten there too, and he was putting his coat and his scarf down on a chair, and then he was putting 2 glasses of whiskey on the pool table. I found out later from the bartender it was whiskey. So I lose it. I immediately tapped my guy and I was like, we need to get out of here. The Drizzt twin is right there. And he's like, okay, oh my God. He's like, let me pay the tab. Give me 2 seconds. As he's saying that, I look over his shoulder, and sitting at the bar, not 5 feet past him, is the other Drizzt twin. And he's signing a tab with a glass of whiskey in his hand as well. So I point him out and I just start shaking. And so my guy's like, you know what? Just go wait in the valet. I got this. Get out of here. I know we're good. And I was like, okay. So I get low and I'm like trying to squeeze through the crowd to get to the front door. And I stopped dead in my tracks because I realized, wait a second. The DA told us that we don't even need a breathalyzer or whatever they're in possession of to be handed over to the courts to put them in prison. We just need a photo because they're convicted. So you don't need as much evidence. So I turned around, I whipped out my camera, and I'm like kind of hiding behind some people, whipped out my camera, and I took a video of one of the Drizzt twins with his 2 whiskeys inside a bar, which is illegal and felony probation. So here it is. There it is. Not 1, but 2 cocktails. Okay, so I get the video, and I told the guy I was with that I was taking the video, and he knew why. He knew about all this stuff. So I get the video, and it's cold in November in LA, for LA, whatever. So I had like a big jacket and a scarf around my neck. So I take the scarf and I wrap it around my whole head so that only my eyes are showing, and I just start sprinting out because I didn't want them to see me. I run out the front doors, I'm in the valet, and I look to my left and I see Sean Drizzt in the smoking section, like 20 feet away from me. So thank God, I'm like wrapped my whole head, and I'm like, oh my God. And I just run the other way and I just start sprinting down Sunset Boulevard. And I got maybe a few blocks away, and then I turned into an alley and just like collapsed on the ground. And I text the guy, like, where are you? I just saw the 3rd Drizzt outside, so I'm I had to run. I'm a few blocks away, like, here's my location. So he's texting me. He's like, okay, so I got my thing signed out. I still got to get my car. He goes, however, before I left, I thought I'd help you out. And I took a couple photos of them too. And I think they saw me. Well, you'll see the photos. He's like, I think they saw me because the second they saw me, he was pretending to try to take a picture of like the light fixtures or something because they're like beautiful there. The Drizzts saw him. They dropped their drinks and they sprinted full speed out of the hotel and into the valet. Here's the photos he took. Here's the first one he took of Maurice and Alberto Drizzt standing with their cocktails. And here's the second photo he took. Look how angry this Drizzt is. That was like a second before they dropped their full cocktails and sprinted full speed out the door and got a car to pick them up and leave. Okay, so that's what happened. I told the guy, I'm in the car with him, and I was like, date's over. Can you drop me off at my brother's house because I have to show him this evidence, and we have to talk about what we're going to do this next week with the DA's office about this. This is such a big deal. Oh my God. Like, what are the chances, like, the one time I go out and this happens in the first 3 minutes? Like, wow, sign from the universe, all that stuff I'm thinking. And so he drops me off at my brother's, and I go to my brother's for maybe a couple hours, and we're just talking about everything. And it's probably, by the time I got home that night, it was around 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And when I got home, now I'm going to do the rest of this in the next part, but I'll just kind of set it up for you. When I got home, at the time, I was renting a 1-bedroom in a house on a very private, gated street with only 8 homes on it. So we know who's in and out on the street, like nobody's ever there, you know, but like, you know who's in the street, who gets past the gate and whatever. So I get home, it's 1 a.m., my car is sitting there totally fine, and I'm like, oh, okay, I go to bed. And yeah, I guess I'll just cover what happened the next time I came out of my house and what happened that night in the next part. I'm going to talk about retaliation and intimidation. It's just the beginning. Thanks, guys. Part 49 of Don't Say Schwarzenegger. This is a continuance of Part 48, and I'll be covering intimidation and harassment tactics that were used against me once evidence of probation violations were in my possession. Okay, so quick recap from Part 48. It's November 21st, 2019. I had just gotten home from going out to the Edition Hotel in West Hollywood and bumping into the Drizzes, the defendants in my assault case, and I now have in my possession photo and video evidence of the Drizz twins committing felony probation violations, drinking alcohol inside a bar. That's 2, 7 years in prison, period. So when I get home, technically it's Friday morning, so it's November 22nd, 2019, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I go to bed. When I woke up that day, like 8 hours, 7 hours later, whatever, I was hit with bad anxiety, agoraphobia, as it does to me sometimes a lot. And I just couldn't leave my house. I couldn't even go outside to go check the mail for about 3 days. But I also was like, it's fine. Like, let yourself take a breath for a few days. You have the biggest evidence so far, not that we didn't before and they got away with everything, but I'm like, I have this evidence. It's cut and clear. Okay, like this next week, we're going to go to the DA. We're going to have these guys sent to prison finally. So Sunday night comes around 3 days later-ish, and I decide I'm going to leave and go pay a visit to the guy that I had just briefly started dating. And when I go out to my car, which was perfectly fine on Thursday, and I hadn't seen my car in 3 days, remember, I walk out and I see 2 huge dents in the hood, and my car was keyed. I wonder who did that. But then I start kicking myself standing there going, oh my God, when did this happen over the weekend? I wish I wasn't like had all these issues and mental and all this stuff, and I should have like gone out every day like a normal person, and I would have known. So I call my landlord and ask her if she noticed, because she pops by the house a lot. And she actually told me, thank God. She was like, oh yeah, I did see that. She's like, I actually happened to pop by the house on Friday morning at 6 o'clock in the morning to go grab something or whatever. And she's like, and I noticed it, and I was gonna like tell you when I saw you, but then it slipped my mind. I was busy doing stuff. But I figured obviously you would see it, you'd come out and see it. But she didn't anticipate that I, wouldn't leave my room for 72 hours, which is totally fine. So now I have a window. Now I know that somebody came over the gate, and sometime between 1 o'clock in the morning, Friday morning, and 6 o'clock in the morning, took a crowbar to my car, pretty much. So I'll show you the photos I took. So there's one. You can see there's 2 big dents in the car next to each other, like somebody took a crowbar, which has 2 prongs. There's one. And here's the other one. Yeah, that wasn't an accident. They clearly, like when I took it to a mechanic, because I had to get the entire hood replaced, had to get a car rental for like a month. It was so expensive. And yeah, the mechanic told me that it very much looks like someone took one end of a crowbar and took 3-4 hits to my car. So that was just a couple of hours after I got home. So I did make a police report to the LAPD, and I did tell the DA, and I did tell my attorneys. Nothing's happened. So now let's get to the next part, which I forgot to give a trigger warning in the very beginning of this video, but this part isn't appropriate for kids. Use your discretion. So that was the first bit of intimidation tactics that was used immediately after I came home. That was on that Friday morning. So now I think it's either Sunday or Monday night when I leave my house to go and see the guy that I was at the audition with that weekend. And one thing that really worried me about when this all went down at the audition in my previous part was he said the Driz crew watched him get into his car that was pulled up in the valet first before theirs. And I just got really worried because I was like, great, they have your license plate. They're going to be able to find out where you live. Okay, great. But then you just kind of go, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Okay. And then also, I very strongly felt, especially because of this crowbar incident, that clearly my home address is not a secret to people that I wish it was a secret to. So anyways, okay, sorry, I'm going to give detail without trying to give too much detail. But I go to his place, his house, and let me describe his house. His house, it was only a few minutes from where I lived at the time. And it's a big 2-story house with a guest house and a pool, and it has a big front yard and a big backyard and a huge wrapping wall all around the property, like very tall, so that if you wanted to, you could not wear clothes and walk around the yard daytime or nighttime, and nobody from the street would be able to see you. So it's a very private residence. Not that I did that, maybe, I don't know. But so that night I go to his house, and we're inside the house, maybe like 9-10 p.m. And we begin to get intimate in a room in the house at maybe like, I don't know, 10 feet from one of the windows that faces out to the street. And again, you can be inside the house looking out in the street and you still have privacy from people that might be in cars, walking, whatever. Okay. While we're in the middle of being intimate, all of a sudden, I noticed it first, I could hear a noise, and I realized, like, oh my God, what is that noise? And I've actually been hearing it for like 5 minutes, but now it's weird. Like, I'm actually, like, my brain's turning off, and I'm like, what is that? I look out the window, and hovering about 3 feet, 2-3 feet outside of the window is a drone. And it's filming us. And so I like immediately like cover myself and I'm like, oh my God, it's a drone. He gets up, he sees it. We like throw the lights on, we're throwing our clothes on. And as we start running towards the front door, remember, this drone has cleared the wall. It has gone across the front yard and then into the patio that's covered into that area and just hovering right outside the window filming us. By the time we get to the front door, it takes off. It's gone. Like there's no chance in like chasing a drone down, you know, especially in this neighborhood. So that happened. We both saw it. We both realized, and like we're talking about it afterwards, and he was like, yeah, I heard it too, but I didn't realize what that sound was until you pointed it out. And then it's like, oh my God, yeah, that's been there for a few minutes for sure. It wasn't a mistake. Like, you legally, like, you guys comment and tell me what the rules and the laws are on drones and stuff in residential neighborhoods flying over and hovering. It was probably 5-6 feet off the ground and a few feet outside the window directly facing us. So that happened. It freaked me out. It freaked me out so bad because it was like, okay, they know where I live. They know where he lives. The crowbar to my car, the drone filming us being intimate. Now there's a Schmeck's tape out there and it's in the hands of people that terrify me. So I ended up, because of this, and I regret this like every single day. Like I regret not taking it the next step over the next week, months. I was terrified to actually go to the DA's office and make a formal report and call for a hearing. Like I couldn't do it. I was terrified. What's the third thing that's going to happen to me? Like, this is pretty intense and pretty aggressive. So then a few months later, like 2-3 months later, it's 2020, February, the lockdowns begin, COVID begins, and it's like, everybody has bigger fish to fry at that point, you know? So I just kind of said, well, I'm not important. This isn't important. I'm just going to let it slide. So, Yeah, I also I developed a severe case of TMJ and like I had massive headaches from it. I couldn't chew. I was eating like baby food for like 3 months. Headaches, everything. I had to go to an ear, nose, and throat doctor, and it was just a lot. I don't have time to cover it right now, but I'm going to cover it in chronological order. But I wonder, are you asking now, like, well, what happened next? Did they release it online? Did they blackmail you? It wasn't released online. It is somewhere. But when I get to it and I cover the civil trial very, very soon, during the 3rd week of the civil trial, when it was clear that we were going to win, that's when I got an email from a burner account, very detailed, threatening blackmail, saying they hacked all of my contacts and they were going to send my schmex tape to everyone I knew unless I made an important decision immediately, which clearly was to drop the lawsuit, which I didn't. So, yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. I'm going to cover that civil trial soon. It's bananas. So thank you so much for the support. Appreciate it. Part 50 of Don't Say Schwarzenegger. In this part, I'm going to be going over the 2019 deposition of Alex Derville, close friend of all of the defendants, was present that night of the assault, and is now a practicing attorney in California. Okay, so on the far left here is Alex Derville. In the middle is his father, Bruno Derville. And on the right, I believe that's his brother, Alex's brother, David Derville. We're going to talk about Bruno Derville down the road. But before I get into reading the excerpts from Alex's deposition, I want to just brief you guys on the chaos and the confusion and the mistakes that happened trying to get this licensed attorney to just sit and be deposed about multiple attempted unalivings that he stood not 20 feet away from, but mere inches from, as I'll show you with proof, with photo evidence from surveillance footage. So I first, I think it was around 2018, 17, 18, that I started paying for and ordering all of these transcripts of the depositions, of the trials, of all of these hearings, because I wanted to fact check everything myself. And the more and more I bought them and read them, the more, major information would pop out at me, like, hey, why weren't we told about this? Hey, here's another witness. If you watch my series, there's a bunch of names that I've mentioned where I'm like, why wasn't this person deposed? Why weren't the police talking to this person? Like Jared Moreno and Lauren Diamant and all these other names, that we wouldn't have known about had I not read the transcripts. So 2018-ish, I'm reading these transcripts and I'm finding out names and photos from surveillance of people that were standing within inches of my brother being attempted to be unalived by this group of men, the defendants. So one of the names that popped out, two of the names that I've mentioned many times in my series so far, is Alex Derville and his girlfriend at the time, Alyssa Arnold. So I immediately went to my attorneys and I was like, you guys, like I emailed them, like my brother and I, we would like you to depose Alex and Alyssa in time for our civil trial because this is insane. We should get them on the record and see if they want to lie under oath and perjure themselves. So we did that, and my attorneys responded. They're like, yeah, we actually, we deposed both Alex and Alyssa like months ago, and they didn't have really anything of importance to say. And even though I disagree, after, I've read Alyssa's depo to you guys and it has very important stuff, but opinions, I guess. But they were like, and just so you know, Alex Derville, and they literally described him. They said he was kind of like Forrest Gump. He's got like something mental, something going on up there where he's, it wasn't even worth like getting information from him because he's slower and, they described him as Forrest Gump. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to need the video deposit. I'm going to need the transcripts. And I'm going to need the video, the discs or whatever. I just want to see it for myself. So like months went by of me checking in, asking for it. And my attorneys reached out to the other plaintiffs' attorneys to get a copy of the transcript and the video because apparently they didn't have it. And then, then they were reaching out to the stenographer trying to get a cheaper rate for me, like something like instead of $1,200, maybe $600 for you if you wait longer. All this stuff was going on. I'm checking in, maybe a dozen times. And then finally, one day, a paralegal at my attorney's firm reached out and emailed me and said, oops, like our bad, we never deposed Alex, oops, okay, we'll depose him as soon as possible. We have to like give him a subpoena and all that. So I was like, okay, I'm glad I caught that. Oh my God, I'm glad I wasn't charged for it too. So that got the ball rolling to finally get him deposed. So we get him subpoenaed, and this is where it kind of gets crazy. Okay. So just trying to subpoena him was work in itself. Apparently, my firm has one of the best people who does this in the state of California, and they tried like 8-9 times to depose him at his work, at his home, at these addresses that they found and I found. And they then described him as Jason Bourne because of the way he was ducking and dodging us and everything. And I was like, well, okay, I'm going to hire an outside help then with my own money to get him. And when I went to go do that, my attorneys were able to finally subpoena him. He accepted an email subpoena. So we get the depo scheduled for Alex Derville for September 26th, 2019. And he said, nope, I'm unavailable. So then all the attorneys for all the plaintiffs and everything, and the defendants, because all their attorneys are allowed to be at this deposition. They all say, okay, let's do it like a few weeks later. How about October 8th, 2019? We'll accommodate you. And the night before at 11 p.m., Alex had an attorney reach out to our attorneys and say, he's probably not going to make it tomorrow morning for the depo. And so probably like, okay, so all of the attorneys who again are being paid by the hour or contingency, all this stuff, all the attorneys show up for the deposition the next day. And they waited like 30 minutes or an hour or something like that. And Alex Derville skipped it. A licensed attorney in California. Okay, so now it's December 27th. This is the third court date that finally Alex Derville shows up. 12/27/2019. He finally shows up to be deposed. And this photo I got of Alex from the website of the RD Law Group, which he founded in 2022. And as you can see here, he's a partner. And at this deposition, Alex said he was representing himself, which is really weird. If you are a partner at a law firm, why would you do that? Next, Alex is asked about his relationship with all 4 defendants. And first, we were asking him about Sean Driz, and he says he's known him his entire life since the year he was born, but he doesn't know him anymore. Convenient. And he says that he texted Sean just 3-4 months prior to this deposition. Alex also said under oath that the night of the attempted unalivings didn't affect his friendship at all with Sean. They're not friends for another reason, he said. Alex then says, and I quote, "My memory is horrible. I can barely remember what happened yesterday." He says that quite a bit through the deposition. Not the best character trait if you're an attorney representing people. I don't know if the clients of RD Law Group should be told about that ahead of time. At the time of the assaults, Alex was attending law school at Southwestern. Also, this man that claims that he can't remember what happened yesterday says that the night of the assaults, he had at least 5 double scotches at Ago where they had the dinner. And then he didn't eat much. Convenient. Alex is then asked if he's ever seen any of the defendants do the illegal white powder, that was found in all 3 Driz's home in 2017. And he says, not that I can recall. Alex then claims his memory suddenly works again, even though he can't remember what he did yesterday. But he says that when he went to the Nice Guy after dinner at Ago, he had at least 2 to 3 double scotches. So that brings the total to 7-8 double scotches, which that's not safe to do for anyone, my God. Alex is then asked if he recalls the attempted unalivings, and he answered briefly from a distance and sort of wanted to get his girlfriend Alyssa to safety and sort of left, end quote. Okay, that's a lie, so I'm going to show you some screenshots of the surveillance footage. See the guy to the far left wearing a black t-shirt, dark hair, black jeans, and black shoes, and you can see his right arm and his neck? That's Alex. See the thing happening to his right, and I made sure I got a screenshot so you can't see anything horrific that, TikTok wouldn't allow. But there is a person slumped over on their knees, slumped over. That's my brother. And then that would be the defendants kicking, stomping, punching, or about to. I made sure I didn't get a picture that was gruesome or anything. And that would be Alex Derville, attorney at law, standing, watching. From, in this frame, it's about 2 feet, but I have other frames where he's within inches. And here's another picture. That would be him to the far left, standing with the dark shirt and the even darker pants. The woman to the left in the white jacket, that would be Alyssa, his girlfriend. And that would be, again, Derville with his back to Alyssa, not paying any attention to his girlfriend whatsoever. In fact, in the video, if I played it on TikTok, which I can't, she's literally yelling at him and pulling him, and he's shaking her off because he wants to be, in it. So, my hero. Okay, I'm going to continue the last, quarter of the brave Superman hero, best boyfriend in the whole world, his deposition. I'll be finishing that in the next part. Thank you, guys. Part 51 of Don't Say Schwarzenegger, and this is the continuance of Part 50, which is Alex Derville's 2019 deposition. Now, the next question Alex is asked, oh, by the way, here's a photo of Alex just focusing on protecting his girlfriend. There she is in the white jacket within 1 foot of a body on the ground being assaulted by their close group of friends. She's leaning in watching, and her boyfriend, Mr. Protector, he's just got his hands down by his side a few feet away, just watching. Just watching. So Alex was shown the surveillance footage frame by frame during his deposition, and the attorneys asked, do you recognize any of your friends on this? Which, by the way, everybody recognized, pretty much everybody and themselves, when you go frame by frame and blah, blah, blah. And Alex said no. This attorney, licensed in California, said no. Then he was asked, what was your first thought at the attempted unalivings? And I swear to God, he said, I'm leaving to Buenos Aires. So I got this off of the RD Law Group, the law firm that Alex founded in 2022. I got this off their website, and it says, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it says, Law Group, Lawyers Helping People. So just wanted you to look at that while I read you this next part from his deposition. Here we go. Okay. So he claimed, this lawyer claimed, who's not being represented by anyone but himself, says that he didn't see any of his friends hit anyone, even though I just showed you 3-4 frames of him standing there watching this all happen, not pulling his friends off, not protecting his girlfriend, not trying to get her or anyone out of there. He's just got front row seats. I was waiting for him to take out some popcorn. He then says, this attorney from a law firm who like to help people, the RD Law Group, he says, and remember, this is 4 years after the assault, and he says, this is 4 years ago, and it's such a trivial thing in my life because it didn't affect me. That's why I'm frustrated about being here as well. It's interesting that an attorney, a partner at a law firm, doesn't understand why his testimony would be important in a GBI felony assault case where there's tons of injuries and medical stuff and victims and surveillance footage showing that not only did he have dinner and party and know these guys, but he was literally there. He was literally mere inches away from someone's back being broken in 7 places, mere feet away from a person having their ear being hit so hard that they lost hearing permanently in their left ear. Right ear, I can't remember which one. And by the way, you can't see it on the frames I've showed you, but my lifeless body is about 30 feet away, next to all their other friends who did nothing, who I will be getting to soon. Also, strange thing, which was I hadn't seen anyone else except for Annabilla's impact statement character letter of support that she wrote for Sean a few years ago, but he claims that TMZ, he found out about this whole thing. Not because he was literally there. He says he found out about it through a TMZ article that came out the next day about it, which is interesting because TMZ would have reached out to the victims, wouldn't they? If that was a real thing, or if TMZ was to be taken seriously. And then lastly, Alex says that he was never interviewed by police, nor did he ever make attempts to make a police statement to help the victims, despite what the RD Law Group's website says. So that's great. So the guy who has a terrible memory was described as Forrest Gump by my attorneys when it came to being deposed, then described as Jason Bourne when it came to being subpoenaed because he was so good at avoiding them, then going on camera and saying that He has the worst memory that he can't even remember what he did yesterday, but he can remember exactly what he drank and exactly how many doubles he had that night. So he's got a very interesting, specific type of memory. I don't know if people want to go to the RD law firm to be represented by somebody like this, both for his morals and ethics, and also for his grasp of the law. Like, the attempted unalivings were trivial and it didn't affect me, so I'm a little annoyed that I even have to be here and waste my time. I'm going to Buenos Aires. Like, what a piece of work. What a piece of work. Okay, guys, we are getting so close to the civil trial, me covering it. I'm still figuring out what to cover when it comes to the rest of the intimidation and the surveillance and the harassment. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, I'll probably cover that first. But thank you guys so much. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on the RD Law Group and I don't know what I should do in terms of Alex Derville, I'm terrified for other people being represented by him. I'm terrified. Like this, people should know, and I think the state bar should know, but I just don't know how to do any of that stuff. I'm learning as I go. But thank you guys so much. So much.